Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy GZTV back with another video, and in this video, this is the first official video I'm going to be doing from the home studio for spring break. But we are here to talk about the 1993 American fantasy comedy film directed by Harold Ramis from a screenplay by him and Danny Rubin. Man, it has been a month, but we are finally back. Sorry about that. We are finally back with another movie review, and we are diving straight back into the comedy world where we have a film that many would consider a classic, obviously Groundhog Day. Man, obviously we covered the Spider-Man films for a while. We did a ranking on all of those films all together that I've watched. And now we are here back with comedy. We're going to watch Groundhog Day, and we're going to watch Funny People with Adam Sandler. Those are two really renowned classic comedy films, so I cannot wait to talk about them. But Andy McDowell, Bill Murray, and even Chris Elliott were all great actors and actresses for their time, so it's awesome to see them in this film. I don't care what anyone says, even today, a younger Andy McDowell is absolutely gorgeous. She is a very beautiful woman. Honestly, even today, like right now, she's fucking beautiful at the age of like 60 something. We know her from Multiplicity. We mostly know Bill Murray from the Ghostbusters franchise. Obviously, he's done other movies. And Chris Elliott did great, and There's Something About Mary as well. So again, these are actors during the 90s and actresses that were great in some of my favorite comedy films and some of my favorite films from that era in general. Great cast, I think. They play their roles well. It's awesome. Also, how freaking cool is it that Harold Ramis, another Ghostbusters icon, rest in peace, directed this film? I mean, how could this movie not be good with everything I just mentioned? Just an all-star cast, everybody stacking together. Let's not waste any time and relive the same day over and over. Get it? And get into it. Also, one more thing I want to mention before we get into this, there's also a Groundhog Day 2 coming this year, so it almost seems like perfect timing. I just found out while formulating my review that that was a thing. That's awesome. Wonder what they will go for that film. Be on the lookout for a possible review, but again, how coincidental is it that I am reviewing the original film for the first time on the channel? Interesting. So just kind of a quick premise, a quick plot. I'll try not to spoil anything. You guys should know how this movie goes, but this movie follows a cynical TV weatherman who finds himself reliving the same day over and over again when he goes on location to the small town of Punxsutawney to film a report about their annual Groundhog Day. He goes here every single year. It's like his third or fourth year in a row. He's obviously the weatherman, and this is like an important cultural weather phenomenon, so he goes here to cover this. His predicament drives him to distraction until he sees a way of turning the situation to his advantage, and kind of the whole plot of this is him trying to figure out what he has to do so the day progresses. It's strictly trial and error, follows Bill Murray's character Phil Connors, which almost sounds like Phil Collins, which is kind of funny, trying to live this day the correct way, get everything right, win the heart of his producer Rita in a literally perfect way so time can progress. It's like almost like it's like destiny for him and her to be together, and that's what this film is setting up for. He's also impressing this group of small town folk who he at first sort of dismisses and looks down upon. He eventually grows to love all the people there, learns about them all because he just keeps living the same day there over and over. It's a nice concept. Without further ado, let's get into the good. So getting into the good, and by the way, we split this up into the good, the bad, the okay, and then we do like a review at the end with a tier list. So just kind of reminding you guys, it's been a while since I've done a movie review. I figured I'd refresh you guys. But just starting with the concept, such a unique and awesome concept that the writers and Ramis really fleshes out well to an extent. Now, the film obviously gets redundant, and maybe sometimes they show too much of the same thing, which we will get into later, but just this idea of Groundhog Day being a signal of when winter is going to end, and that turning into something that Phil is almost tethered to. Such a cool concept, not something that you see a lot of people come up with. It's a very creative idea, very original idea. Just the fact that he has to get every detail down and do things like air up these women's tire, save a kid from a falling tree, give some money to the homeless, all these things in order for tomorrow to come is fun. And I mean, for a comedy film, it almost adds like a high stakes intensity to it that is different and very much appreciated than most comedy films. Also, I mean, who thinks of making a movie centered around the weather and Groundhog Day? I mean, how cool is that? Just the concept of that in general. No one would ever think of doing something like that, and it's so dope here. Through these struggles and through trying to get everything right, Phil completely changes as a person. He was a completely unbearable character at first, and trust me, we will talk about that later on in the review. You know, he changes people to the point where even producer Rita seems surprised and eventually falls in love with him, which is kind of like the lasting sequence, which is kind of where the third act heads. kids for this film. It's that last day, the day that he doesn't screw up and he wins her heart. All the different sequences with the angles he took, such as trying to perfectly get to know about Rita, like everything and what she likes, was so cool, because some days do seem repetitive, and if you try the same things over and over and they don't work, you gotta go for something else. Not just because when you're doing what you're doing at the moment isn't working, but because doing different things is exciting in an often monotonous life. And there's a great philosophical element to this movie in that sense. It really teaches you a lesson as well, while being a somewhat funny, high stake, kind of intense movie at times. The days will feel the same if you just go to your 9 to 5 every day and come home and sit on the couch. Like, find as many fun things to do as you can and learn from things that aren't working out for you. That's kind of like the whole message. Also, this movie does get depressing at times, obviously, with the monotony of his life, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a very lighthearted, jolly old time and kind of puts you in like this holiday spirit. I mean, forget Groundhog Day, no offense, who celebrates that. With the snow and the snowmen and the atmosphere of this movie, this could easily be played during the holiday season, during like Christmas and New Year's, to get your spirits up. I love it. I mean, I love the fairy tale ending. It kind of adds to that holiday stuff, although that can sometimes be generic. They do a great job of wrapping up the film. It's awesome. And one more thing, I just want to add a quick note. I know this is like unrelated to the positives. I also just found out that this whole Punxsutawney thing with Groundhog Day is actually real, so that is hilarious. This is something that actually happens. I know groundhogs are a big part of like telling when the spring's coming, but I didn't know this was actually a thing in some small towns, especially Punxsutawney. It's hilarious. I mean, it sounds like something that would be fake for the sake of the movie, but nope, they have a website for this event, and there's actually a groundhog who forecasts how long winter will last, and the people take his word for it, so it's funny, man. Now, getting into the bad, I will say there were definitely some annoying moments in this film that I didn't appreciate very much. Pre-Groundhog Curse, if you will, Phil was an extremely unbearable person. The character before kind of this shift that he had, and like his kind of appreciation for life, sort of, and these revelations he had.
I'm sorry? What was that again?
I'm a god.
He was unbearable, and obviously throughout the film he changes for the better again, but before you as an audience sort of realizes what is going on, before you realize, hey, the days are just repeating over and over, you really hate the beginning of the movie because you have this weatherman that is an arrogant asshole for what? I mean, wow, you can tell me the forecast for the day and you act like you're the fucking man, and you rub it in your cameraman and your producer's face. It was annoying at the first. Also, you know, the film being monotonous is obviously essential at times due to just the nature of the concept, but they just put a little too much emphasis on it to where you get sort of annoyed yourself. Like, not just Bill Murray's character gets annoyed, you start to get annoyed yourself. I got tired of stuff like the bed and breakfast maid. I got tired of the heavyset dude in the hallway, especially tired of Ned. That was the most annoying thing. Anytime he was on the screen, I just wanted to close my ears and close my eyes because, oh my fucking god, him selling insurance and overall people like that. I respect the business, but man, that shit is annoying. And they just kept showing those parts over and over and over again, and I just wasn't very appreciative of that. And those two major things are really my only negatives with an otherwise pretty good to really good film. Getting into the okay, I will say the love situation between Rita and Phil seems a bit forced. They seem like they want to just get to that resolution, just to have that fairy tale ending, just to get to the end of the movie. They almost don't seem to know each other towards the beginning of the film. There's no like prior signs of them knowing each other that well. They work together, that's really about it. And there was no premonition that Phil liked Rita before the day started repeating. It's almost like a flip, just a switch just boom, flipped, and all of a sudden Phil is just head over heels for this girl. Obviously it made for a wholesome and cute little romance story mixed in with this comedic dilemma, but still it could have been developed a little bit better. I think they definitely could have added a little bit to their characters towards the beginning of the film to make that slightly better. I also found it a little cringe, you know, all the things that Phil did to try to break the curse, hooking up with this random woman before Rita for no reason, committing suicide in various ways, including having a groundhog drive him off a cliff. It's funny, but it's a little goofy and hyperbolic if you ask me, and almost goes too far into the fantasy, and you guys know my thoughts about fantasy films and fake shit. I'm not a huge fan of it. The only exception I usually make is like superheroes. Other than that, I don't know. Last thing is, in terms of the comedy, compared to some of the great comedies we have seen and reviewed on the channel, you know, you talk about A Tropic Thunder, you talk about Happy Gilmore, you talk about Step Brothers, all these type of movies, this one wasn't as funny. Like, the humor aspect wasn't there, and I saw some stories about Harold Ramis and Bill Murray actually like clashing over the script because Bill Murray wanted it to be more philosophical and more thematic, and Harold Ramis wanted it to be more of a comedic film. And it has a decent balance to an extent there, but I wish it was a little more funny, to be fair. There you go. Not a big deal, but when the film is labeled as a comedy, you're kind of expecting some laughs here and there, and it didn't really get that much out of me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is review time. Pull up the tier list. You can see the tiers. I usually go from a 0.1 to 1, 1.1 to 2, blah, 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 up till the top. I've explained this in videos before. You can go back and look. This rating may seem a little high for me, but I don't need to get nitpicky and analytical when talking about a film like this and for what it's trying to do. I mean, the holiday spirit and the lighthearted mood emitting from it, for all of that, you know, it does a great job. It's an absolute blast that the whole family can watch. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 9.1 out of 10. I actually really enjoyed this. I think this was a really fun film to watch. It's nice and to the point, just like most good comedies were in the 90s and 2000s, and I wish we could go back to these type of movies rather than the cash cow mega blockbuster films with hardly any creative direction that we get today. But that is why I'm going back and watching some of these classics. So I hope you enjoyed the review. Obviously, let me know your thoughts down below. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Obviously, it has always been GZTV. Just a really good, wholesome kind of holiday time film. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which I love, and that's how comedy film should be. I don't know why there's always a gnat down here. Hopefully, that's kind of sorry, you don't see that flying across the screen. It's been your boy GZTV though. Movie reviews, funny people is coming up. I might do a Jason Tatum video coming up because I've been pretty prideful about some of the stuff I'm seeing on my Twitter timeline, X, whatever. I think we're going to get back into Squid Game after that because I really want to progress through that second season, especially because here in like 3 months we're getting another season of the show. So I'm out. I'm just going to end the video. I'm out, guys.